Hey, howdy, hey, everybody. This is Matt and Jordan doing episode 2 of our unnamed podcast.
Hey, we're better than some places. They don't get past episode 1.
Yeah, true. I've heard that there's a statistic that most podcasts that launch don't make it past 7.
You know, I don't know why I hadn't heard that, but
Yeah.
7 was the magic number in my mind. As soon as I said I know some places don't get past episode 1, I thought I know there's always a magic number. So I'm glad you know the magic number.
Of course it's 7. It's biblical, Matt.
Well, I mean, that's where I naturally go. 7 being, perfect completion, and then 8 being new beginnings. So hopefully we'll be able to get to episode 8.
Hopefully we'll be able to get to episode 8. Fingers crossed. I think we will. I think we're in this for the long haul.
I mean, I just hope episode 10, because I want to make sure we outlast Star Wars.
I don't know if we're gonna have the same production quality and gravitas as Star Wars does, though.
No, never. But the Force is with us.
Okay. Well, Matt? What are we doing? What are we doing today? What's the top? What are the?
So, guys, I mean, we're just we're here for episode 2. So last week I know we talked about having a name. We haven't done that yet, which is why we haven't mentioned it. But make sure that you check out episode 1 so that you answer that poll. This way we're able to figure out what the name is. Mm-hmm. And at the very end of this, we're also going to be having another thing that allows you to help us define who we are. And the question we're going to be asking is, would you prefer this to be coming through a podcast? Or would you rather this be a video where you could see Jordan's lovely face on my own?
Your face is lovely too.
Well, some people think so. Not many, but I've broken more cameras than I haven't. We'll just say
wow.
it that way. But just what would be the best format for us to be able to be sharing this with y'all? Mm-hmm. So make sure at the bottom in the comments you let us know about, would you prefer this to be a podcast, video, or if there's anything else, let us know. We'll see. We'll do the best we can, although remember, we don't have Star Wars budget.
Yes, true. And if we decide podcast is something we could look towards, we can definitely easily put this on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. If we want to go more videos, we'll try and do more video-friendly things, so maybe playing some games in front of you guys, whatever that looks like. But we got some segments that we're going to be doing for you today. Same 3 that we're going to continue with. If y'all like those, let us know. If y'all don't, please let us know. We're going to start off with our question of the week, which I think Matt will be bringing us this week as our question.
Yeah.
And what do we got after that?
After that, we're going to have story time because, we all got lots of stories to share, and sometimes they're good, so we're hoping that today's a double batch of good.
It'll be great. And then wrapping it all up at the end is our Choose It or Lose It segment. We give some of our hot takes on the topical topics of the time. That was a lot of
topical topics of the time.
Good luck saying that. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's get out of this. Let's just go ahead and get into the show.
So the question of the day is going to be, how did you get involved in ministry? And so that could be, I know you just started as a youth leader with our youth group, but I know you did ministry before that too. So kind of, how did you get involved in ministry and get to this point, I think?
Yeah, that's kind of a big question because I feel like ministry for me is not just defined as youth, not just college, not just worship. It's ministry is ministry, yep. big as it is. And for me specifically, kind of going off of my testimony from last week, I got to know Christ pretty early and got to develop and grow in that relationship pretty quickly with the church that I was going to. They were able to heavily invest in me. But it wasn't while I was in high school that I decided that I should do ministry. I know that at one summer camp, there was this moment where I was like, maybe music minister would be something that I'd really be interested in. I loved singing at the time. I was a part of band. I was also in choir. I was in show choir, the top choir, actually. Wow. I don't think, it was because there wasn't a lot of kids that wanted to do it, basically. Oh, okay. But I was okay.
Wait, homeschool?
No, this is still public school. It was a brand new public school, though. Let that be known. It was brand new at the time that I showed up. But yeah, so in high school, I did say, well, I did ponder the idea of ministry, but it was music. It wasn't youth. It wasn't college. It wasn't something outside of that. It wasn't until that I went to college that kind of changed. Basically, at the beginning of college for me, I decided, you know what? My father is a electrician right now, or at least at the time he was an electrician. My mother, she works at NASA. And you know what? That's kind of a lot of shoes to fill. Let me see if I can fill them to the best that I can. What if I become an electrical engineer? And I know that'll put enough money in my pocket to be okay and sustainable, and I think I can push towards that. But boy, golly, Matt, I went to Blinn College,
Whoop!
and love that place. And after taking a couple math classes, I decided, man, I do not want to do math the rest of my life.
Amen.
Yeah, not that I don't like math. It's just I don't feel like I'm very competent and good at it. There's other things I clearly see that there's some gifts that God has given me. Well, when it comes down to ministry, but when it comes down to math and science and languages, those are all just out of no, they don't work with my brain. It takes you're gonna have to really drill into me some stuff for me to really remember it and to really get it concrete. So after that freshman year of me deciding that I was going to do that, it was the summer after that I said, well, I definitely don't like doing math anymore. I need to look towards something else. I have no idea what I'm thinking about doing. I know in high school I pondered ministry. Maybe I should think about that a little bit more. What I did is I went to my hometown church, Clear Lake Baptist, down in Clear Lake, Houston. And I got to meet up with a lot of the Sunday school teachers that had built into me a lot. And I asked them, hey, well, not just them, but also other grown adults that were in the church. And I had conversations with them of just like, hey, what do you see in me? Like, what is some quality that you think is something good about me, or something that you think a career that I could look towards, or anything along those lines. And the most of the responses came from, well, you have great personality, you have wonderful leadership skills, you're just natural into that. And a lot of people just seem to follow you. If you say, I'm going this way, a few people are going to go. So what could that look like? And the heart that I had for Christ at the time, of just really wanting to develop and grow in that, and also to love others. I had just this time with God where I sat down and I prayed and I said, God, is this for me? Is this youth ministry for me? Potentially, I know that I grew so much in my own youth group, even not having a youth pastor, or I had 7 to 6 different youth pastors. Yeah. But even with that, what would it be like for me to be a stable youth pastor for somebody else? What would that look like? Would that be beneficial for your kingdom, God? And from everybody else that I talked to, and from God specifically, it was an overwhelming yes. I think ministry is the place for you. And I think that you have this set of gifts that are just perfect for this. That drive, that desire, that willingness to always help is something that I know that I have, and it's not going away anytime soon. So I pushed towards that. I wasn't sure why youth ministry was the thing that got put into my head, why God decided that was it, until I went on a, what is it? Not a field trip. What is it?
Retreat? United Weekend D now?
It's one of where you go a mission trip. I don't know. Mission trip. I couldn't think of mission trip.
Hey, we all have those moments.
We do. I went on a mission trip to St. Louis, where we were going to be there for about 3 weeks, doing a part of crew. And we were going to work with the inner city schools at the time. This was summertime was when this was happening. We would go. And this was the year after that. So this was after my sophomore year of college. I went here. we decided I was going to go over there, and we were going to spend 3 weeks. And the goal was we were going to go into these schools, and we were going to be like extra tutors, a part of these classes, because the area that we were in was heavily under educated. That there were fifth graders that couldn't read at like a 3-year-old reading level. It was really bad. So going to those schools and just being extra hands to be there, as well as on the days that we weren't going to be working in the schools, we would then go around the city and try to do some extra evangelism work and just like on the street evangelism with them, as well as work with this inner city church and helping them grow their summer of what that looks like for them. Like I know that we had this Good Friday party time where it was like the last Friday of the month, and the entire street of St. Louis that we were in had this big shindig going on. Oh, and the church was on the street where everybody was going at, so we decided to open up the church to an art gallery. And the art gallery had different paintings of women who were in sex trafficking. And then we would go about as students talking with the people who would come into the art gallery and just opening up conversations and eventually pointing those towards Christ or a Christ-centered conversation. So we were all getting equipped and learning how to do that and how to do that kind of street evangelism stuff. And I was just really excited to do all this. It wasn't until one night that I had a chance to sit down with one of the students that I was working with in the school. I was taking care of the 5th and 6th graders.
Fun group.
Yes, it was a fun group.
Highly energized.
True, but man, those kids were... yes, they were energized, but boy, did they just not like learning. And I thought for the longest time it was, they don't want to do any of this. Like, this is school. School is boring to them. But I had a chance to sit down with a couple of them and find out, no, it's because home is like this. It's because everywhere I go as a kid, this is the kid talking, I'm getting bullied in this way, or this thing is happening to me. And that like the drive to do things is dwindling each and every day for them. Mm-hmm. That going to this summer school is more like a daycare for the parents to then go away and do whatever. They have no desire to be there because nobody really desires them. And that was really hard just to hear and talk about with those students, and how a lot of them struggled with not having a father in their life and not having somebody to look up to, that godlike figure for them, that manly person in their life. And I felt at the time, was struggling with that myself, where my dad, I don't know if I talked about this last episode, but my dad did divorce my mom. And there was a time where I struggled with that for a long time. And I had no father there whenever I was learning how to shave, whenever I was going into puberty. Like, I didn't have somebody there to help guide me. So I knew a lot of the hurts of what these kids were feeling, of not having that father figure around. And then one night while I was spending time with God, he said, that's why I want you to do youth ministry. Mm-hmm. I want you, because you have a special set of background that says, hey, I've struggled with fatherlessness, but you know the ultimate father, me. And I want you to be able to share that with these other kids and in the future of your life here. I want you to be able to, in a youth group, to love them and care for them like a father that they wish they had would. And that's kind of the whole reason why I'm like, okay, God, if that's what it is, I'm here for it. I'm on gun-ho. I'm going into youth ministry, and I'm going to do my best to show that you are the ultimate father. Not me. I'm not the father. I mean, they may look at me as a father figure, and that's totally fine, but I'm going to make sure I'm not redirecting this to myself. This is going all to you, God. Because there's going to be a day where I'm not going to be your youth pastor anymore, but there's still a day where God's going to be right next to you. So yeah, that's a long-winded story, but that's kind of how I decided to go into ministry, and the reason that kind of came about. It was interesting for me because I didn't know what that reasoning was at the beginning. I just knew, okay, God's calling me to this, but why is God calling me? And it wasn't until a year later that I figured out, hey, God's calling me because of this specific thing. So yeah, that's kind of why I've gotten into the ministry.
Nice, man. In your story, I hear a gradual progression, which is what I often think God does. Is it's, a lot of us look for that, light on, light off switch, but it's more like a candle, and how the candle slowly starts to burn and give light. It gives forth to maybe a fire that continues to grow, and then the picture becomes much more clear as you go on. And just in hearing your story, there's a lot of little steps that lead to a big step of getting involved and taking the initiative and going, getting fully submerged, if you would, into it. And that's really cool. It's cool to see how God just continued to touch up in that. You're talking specifically about those 5th and 6th graders, but what was kind of we're in Texas, and we live right down the street from the Alamo, so I always think of what was the draw on the line moment where, there's the line right there and you're like, I'm stepping over that line. Was it with those 5th and 6th graders, or what was that exactly?
I remember the moment, but I don't remember all of the build-up.
Okay.
I just remember whenever we were there, we were staying in school, college dorms that were near the schools that we were working at. And there was, on the floor that we were at, they had some study rooms. And every now and then I would decide, hey, I'm going to go into the study room just so I can have some quiet time. And I remember being in a chair, a part of that study room, all by myself. And then I'm just having, at the time, an in-person conversation with God. I was talking with him. I was hearing his voice. We were connecting. And it was one of those moments where he's like, this is why this happened, this is why this happened, this is why this happened. And he was connecting all the dots for me, saying, that's why I need you to do this. And mostly what I remember is me sitting in that chair, in that room, looking out a window, and my eyes being extremely teary-eyed. But yeah, now I know the moment, but I don't remember all of the build-up to it.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That
was still a big thing. Yeah.
No, I get you. And those big moments, it's powerful.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, there's more to the story too on top of that. But of just where ministry goes on from that point.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure we can get into that some more. But I'd love to know your side of the story, Matt. What kind of propelled you getting into youth ministry? Right now, I'm just a youth worker, but you are a youth pastor here at Solid Rock Church. What kind of brought that on?
Well, it started when I was about 12. I got involved as a Sunday school teacher at the age of 12 in my church, and I was teaching the 2nd and 3rd grade boys. And then eventually the following year, they're going to move me up to 4th and 5th grade boys. And I will do that for, I don't even remember how many years now. I think it was 5 or 6. So that would be the first ministry I get put in charge of or take the lead on. And really for me, it was just, I love working with kids. Even when I was a kid, there was something about me that I loved to see the growth and development in others. One of my first experiences that was being a swim coach at the age of 12. Started being an assistant swim coach, coaching the 6 and under kids. And there's a moment at the end of my first full year of being a swim coach with the kids of, me as a swimmer versus me as a coach. And as a swimmer, I won a championship meet, and I was expecting this great moment of joy and triumphantness, and it was one of the most hollow moments of my life. I remember sitting there waiting for, okay, this is where I'm supposed to feel good.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen until we do an end of year banquet with these kids. And what my team would always do is we would acknowledge every kid in their age group, and we'd bring up the kid, give them a trophy, have them all sit up there, and this is your, I don't even know what year it is anymore, 6 and under kids. Tidal Waves was the team I coached. And seeing my kids and knowing how they had gone, where they started, where many of them couldn't swim, to the end where some of them were the city champions. that right there was like, I know I want to work with kids the rest of my life. That is a passion of mine.
Yeah.
So I'll continue to do that, but it's not going to be for another about 10 years after that that God brings me into ministry. And he does that with a t-shirt. So I graduated from Texas A&M, being involved in a church there, and helping and being a discipler, being involved in a small group. But when I graduate, I move out here to be with my brother and my best friend out here at Texas State. And so I go into a realty place because we need to find a place to live, because currently they were living in Bastrop. So I was wearing a sweater, and I wear it only at Christmas, and it has a picture of Jesus in the manger. It says, "Children need a stable background." I had a youth pastor sweater before I was a youth pastor.
That's quite the youth pastor sweater there.
So I walk into this office. It's January, and I talk to them and say, "Hey, we're looking for me and two guys. We're looking for a place to live. Do you guys rent at all?" I said, "No, we only rent. We only sell homes and property to own. But I like your shirt. Can you tell me more about your shirt? Are you a Christian?" "Yes, sir, I am." And I told him a little bit about my faith life. He's then going to see my Aggie ring, and because he goes, "My son went to A&M. What'd you do with your faith life at A&M?" I tell him I was involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
"Have you ever worked with youth before?" I told him I've been, at that point, a swim coach for about 10 years, a Sunday school for about 6 years, a student youth leader for a few years, and a volunteer youth leader for a year. So I had some criteria. And he goes, "I think my pastor would like to meet you. Can I get your phone number?" And I'm sitting there, I'm like, "Well, this sounds great. Sure, why not?" Because we're looking for a church, and so it'd be awesome to be able to meet a pastor right away.
Yeah.
So a few days later, I'll meet up with this pastor, Pastor Mike Schlimgen, the founder of Solid Rock Church. And he's going to ask me a lot of the same questions. And then he's going to ask me two different ones. He goes, "Have you ever thought about being a youth pastor?" I told him, "Well, no. I thought when my kids would be in the group, I would help, because I know in my youth group we had adult volunteers that came and were awesome. It was awesome to have, high schoolers to be able to lead, college people able to lead, young adults able to lead, and also parents and grandparents. It was awesome to have multi-generational." So I was like, well, that's what I was thinking. So, okay, would you like to be our youth pastor? And at that point, all the wind in my sails has suddenly gone out, and I'm just like, oh, I didn't see this coming. I don't know if it was because I was an Aggie. I don't know if it was because I'm homeschooled, or because I'm from El Paso, which are the three things my pastor likes to tease me about.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming. And so he goes, "Would you like to be ours?" And I'm like, well, let me pray about that.
Yeah.
Let me think about that, because the first scripture that came to my mind was better to have a millstone tied around your neck than to lead one of my children astray. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't have the knowledge. I have no seminary training. I'm not qualified nor capable. I was a weird youth growing up. I was like, I know I'm not the classic youth pastor. So how about this? If this is my home church, I'll consider it, because I hadn't even walked into the church yet.
Yeah.
So that Sunday, I'm going to show up, and the first person that greets me at the door, "Hey, are you that guy that might be the new youth fella?" Game plan coming in was, okay, come in, hide in the back, see what they're like, get to talk to a few people, get out of there. Uh-huh. Yeah, that changed the plan pretty quickly, especially after the second person I meet. Mm-hmm. First person meets me. "Hey, this is Matt." The second person, without any prompting from the first, "Are you the guy that might be the new youth fella?"
Oh my man. It travels fast.
It did. And after the third person I meet, again, no prompting, asked a similar question. I'm like, okay, this is obviously a small church. Everyone already knows who I am. And there is no hiding in the back row. So I guess I'm just going to ride this out and see what this is like.
Yeah.
And that's going to go on for 7 people. The first 7 people I meet will all do the same thing.
Wow.
Are you the new youth leader? Are you the one considering the youth pastor job? This happens up until the seventh person. And I mentioned that because 7 to me, like we had mentioned earlier, 7's a biblical number.
Yeah.
My birthday is July 7, 1987. I weighed 7 pounds, 7 ounces. And
whoa, man. You just dropped a whole bunch of holy on me.
right. I mean, 7 has always stood out to me, and biblically it stands out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So that's something I always see. And so the 7th person is going to be the first young girl I meet. She's going to be in junior high at the time, and she's going to look up at me with these big doe eyes. Are you my new youth pastor? I mean, what do you say to that? You know, it's like the 7th person, she has these big doe eyes, and everyone else was like, are you considering the youth pastor job? And everyone was really indirect. And she's like, are you my new youth pastor?
Yeah.
How do you answer that? And so I said, well, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of had a strong inkling where I was going. The next week I will come back again, and I will see what they do with the youth. And immediately after that service, I will accept the job and become the youth pastor. What I thought would be it was a part-time job, and I thought this would be a temporary thing, but now we are going into 9 years later almost.
Wow.
Just finished my 8-year anniversary was back in January, so we're moving on. And so yeah, not temporary, permanent, full-time now.
Yeah, full-time.
And long and interesting road. So
yeah,
that's how I got involved, and like you, there's many more stories and other stuff to it, but I think that's where I'm going to stop the story today.
Oh my gosh. I mean, for Solid Rock Church to have that kind of boldness to be able to just, hey, are you interested in this? Like, just straight off the bat. I've heard from many other places that the application process of a youth pastor takes months, maybe years. Like, how did it feel just getting almost pushed right into the head person when you didn't even know that was happening, and then 2 to 3 weeks later you take the job and now you've changed your whole life?
Man, that is a touchstone in my life. I look back at, especially on those days where I don't feel qualified, I don't feel capable, and I feel like a failure, because this was never on my list of things I was going to do. I came out here specifically to become a high school teacher and coach.
Yeah.
And then God definitely redirected, and it's been great. It's the best job I've ever had. I love it. I love doing what I do. And God, going, like you said, going through that process, I'm like, did you guys even do a background check on me? I didn't know any of that. I'm like, you're just taking my word for it. They didn't get any references. I'm just like, okay, these guys are crazy, but, cool. Again, never thought I'd be lasting that long, and so
wow.
It's cool.
Yeah, it sounds like you did come here to become a teacher and a coach. So
yeah, it just didn't come the way I thought it was coming.
True. But you've been able to fill out both of those roles very well.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, Matt. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, appreciate it, Jordan. So that was our first segment. We're going to be moving into our second one, which is now it's going to be story time, which it already kind of felt like that in the first one, but now we're just going to be sharing some different stories of just in our life, whether it was when we were a youth, whether us in our ministry roles, maybe sharing some awesome stories from other ministries we've had the privilege of meeting. And with that, if that's all right with you, Jordan, I'm going to start us off today.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
All right. So this one's going to be a story of when I was a youth. And this was one of those times where a youth leader had a significant impact on me that kind of changed my life through the smallest of circumstances. And it all comes about because of a ballerina outfit.
Okay.
So growing up, I was homeschooled. And with being homeschooled, although I was very interactive through sports with other youth, I usually avoided a lot of different things. Halloween parties, prom, any of this stuff that a typical high schooler would go through. I pretty much avoided. I felt like it was ridiculous, and that I had better things to do with my time.
Mm.
So to this day, I'm not exactly sure why I went to my youth group's Halloween party, but when my first year I go to youth group, I'm going to go to our Halloween party. And I'm pretty sure I dressed up as a knight because usually I had a costume like that anyway because I went to Renaissance fairs and I loved doing that. So I felt like that was something. And so, man, a lot of different people came in different costumes. I was very pleased to see that everyone dressed appropriately.
Yeah.
Especially at this point, part of the story that's essential is as a homeschooler, I was a little bit of an ivory tower and I had a little bit of a complex of right and wrong, and it was very, very clear. And there's things you do, there's things you don't do, and there's things that you stay miles away from. And I was a little bit on the judgmental side. And so this night, God is definitely going to use that as an opportunity for growth. Is a show up, and we're having a great time, and we have one of our leaders who I don't know the best way to describe this guy. His name was Dustin. Dustin was an offensive lineman for the UTEP Miners, who had torn his ACL and ended his football career right before he actually joins UTEP. He got a scholarship, was ready to play, gets an injury, and was already given the scholarship, and he will never play a game for UTEP. But he was from what I recall, about a 6'2", 6'3", probably a 250, 260.
Oh boy.
He was a big
guy.
Very, very strong. It wasn't flubber. He was a muscular guy. And so he's going to be one of the youth leaders in this program. And he's going to show up in a tutu.
As you do.
Yeah. And again, this was not my youth pastor, but one of the multiple youth leaders I had. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, as a leader, I think it's inappropriate that he's dressing up as a girl. Because it's not even a male ballerina. He's totally dressed up as a girl, female ballerina. And I'm just aghast. I'm like, this is just inappropriate. It is a bad message to be sending to other youth. And I was appalled. I don't remember how this really gets around to him. I think, I know I mentioned it to some of my friends. I'm just like, I think this is horrible. And so we're just going to get around to Dustin. So sometime at the end of the night, Dustin's going to pull me aside and say, hey, can we talk? I'm like, sure. And he goes, I've heard that my costume has offended you. And I'm really, really sorry. That was never my intent. I thought it would be funny. I was trying to think of something that would be cost effective and just be fun for everyone. And I thought a giant football player coming in here with a ballerina outfit would be humorous. So I'm very sorry if I offended you. I'm not sending a message of cross-dressing or guys need to look or act more like girls or whatever, but just know I'm very sorry if I've offended you. And in that moment, it's just God striking me down in my heart of, wow, you're being really judgmental. And do you see this guy who barely knows me, who's willing to come and humble himself to some punk teenager and saying, I'm sorry for this. This was not my intent. And he was super genuine, super, just really revealed the character of the man he would be. And he was, because he was new to the group. So he was a little bit newer than I was. And so it just really stood out to me on how humble he was to be able to come to a punk teenager who's clearly in the wrong and be like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did wrong. And it's just like, man, and I told him, I'm like, Dustin, I'm sorry for judging you. This was, I'm clearly in the wrong here, and I apologize, and I want you to know I'm really impressed with your integrity and the character of a man that you're demonstrating to me. And so Dustin will be with us for a couple of years, and then he's going to get hitched and moved on, and I don't know where he is now, but that's in my 4 years, I think, with my youth group that I was there as a youth. There's a lot of things that happened, and I don't remember a lot of it. But that is one of the stories I still remember. I don't even want to say how long ago that was, but it's been good. So
yeah, that's a big step in kind of defining who you are and your character, and seeing the moments of, oh, I thought it was good for me to be this are you saying, wait, God, you're saying I shouldn't be that? Like, what is that? Like, coming to that and having that first experience and what that looks like. Man, how did that feel? Just kind of God saying, no, Matt, you don't need to be judging him right now. Like, was that kind of the first time that you had that kind of a thought from God? Or
Not necessarily the first thought, but in that specific way.
Yeah.
It was, and it was, again, just super humbling. I mean, I had had adults talk to me and make apologies before.
Mm-hmm.
But usually that was clearly when something was done wrong.
Yeah.
And this was a very low-key, innocent thing, and he treated it like this was major because, in my opinion, I thought that he was wrong.
Yeah.
And for him to just humble himself and be able to, like, I'm sorry, that really impressed me. And then just my own judgmentality. I mean, it's going to take years of God doing those little things while I'm in my youth group to kind of grow and mature.
Yeah.
And shake some of that.
Yeah, sometimes learning and growing doesn't just come from hearing what your pastor's saying on a Wednesday night. Sometimes it comes from the interactions you have with the students there. So, and with the leaders there too. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's big.
Well, so that's my story. Tell us, what's yours?
Yeah, I got one for you. Yeah, so the story I have for you is this took place, what is it, 12 years ago now? 2008, I believe. At this point, this is me in youth group.
I would hope so.
Yes, I believe if I'm remembering this correctly, which I'm probably not. I think I was coming out of 8th grade and going into my freshman year of high school.
Big transition year.
Yes, and this was the summer in between all of that. So we decided, or during that summer, while I was in youth group, we had the church camp, of course, summer church camp, but we also had a additional mission trip on top of that, where we would go to St. Louis, which I was thinking about it just a moment ago. The story that I was telling you at the very beginning about where I went with those kids and where I worked with them and got me towards ministry, that happened in Kansas City, not St. Louis. I think I just got my stories mixed up a little bit.
Kansas City, St. Louis, I mean, it's kind of the same thing.
It's not at all. I think it's completely different states. Yeah. But no, so what we did is we went to this mission trip. It was from the World Changers people. I'm assuming they're more of a global thing, with the emphasis on the world part. But we never did anything outside of World Changers that one year, so I don't know if they're still around or anything like that. But the goal of, we had our entire youth group go out there, and we were going to do some roofing work for the people out there. I think this was, 2008, that's right where we had the recession happen. I think there was a hurricane also around that time. I think Ike was 2007. So I think there was, most of the damage that we had from people there was from hurricane stuff. Mm-hmm. So we went over there to help out with roofing things. It was my first time ever getting onto a roof. I had never done anything like that before, and this was also my second chance to get to know Neil, the youth pastor at the time. I think I talked about him last week. But yeah, this is my second opportunity to get to know him a little bit better. But basically, our youth group split off into about 3 different groups, and the World Changers people, kind of like a church camp, they kind of run the thing, and we're just the students that help. So World Changers had devised certain groups for people, so our church got split. So we didn't get to hang out with a big group of just my church. I was with about 2 or 3 other youth kids, youth groups that were also part of my people. But we encapsulated about 12 people with 3 leaders, I think is what it was. So we ended up going to this lovely lady's house, and it's the amazing woman who made us cookies whenever we would go over there.
Oh, nice.
She would feed us sandwiches on lunch breaks and stuff like that. And then we had one of her kids would always come out, and one of the girls in our group would always hang out with him and keep him entertained while the rest of us are going around doing roof work. But it wasn't even always just roof work. Sometimes I think at one point we finished the roof because we got it done early and we started working on our fence and we painted our fence.
Oh, nice.
So we were there for like an entire week and we were just dedicated to her property, basically. But man, that was a super fun time because there was myself, Joel, and Megan. Megan is not my sister. I have a sister named Megan, but this is a different Megan. Joel was my very best friend at the time for youth group, and then myself and Neil. Those were the only people I knew from my youth group. And boy, from 8th grade, I was the super awkward kid that I didn't talk that much. I was still trying to figure out my place in a lot of things. Like, I didn't really fit well with groups. I was just kind of the kid that stayed behind and was quiet sometimes. But I decided, you know what, if I'm going into high school, I want to be different. I want to be a little bit more outspoken. So that summer I said, well, while I'm going to World Changers, I'm going to test out what that looks like. So I decided I'm going to be more outspoken. I'm going to talk a little bit more. So going to there and being there for a whole week with these 12 other youth kids and these leaders, I ended up kind of becoming the cool guy of the group.
Nice.
I was
Going from zero to hero.
exactly, which was surprising to me because at no point in my life prior was anything that I said somebody wanted to listen to. Basically, I was just the super quiet, awkward kid that when I'd say something, they'd be like "ha ha," and then they'd like turn around and go back to their groups. But this time it was like if I was talking, people were wanting to listen and were wanting to have fun. And I was kind of the funny, let's just enjoy each other and like have a good time here. And then also have an emphasis on let's make sure we make this place looks good too. So that was a really crazy experience for me. I never got a chance to be that kind of a popular guy, and that kind of led me to where I'm at today. But the main thing I want to focus on is at one point while we were working on this lovely lady's roof, from the little hanging parts of the roof, which usually typically makes that V, and the little hanging parts at the bottom of that, we noticed on one of the first days that there was kind of like a small little wasp nest up in the corner. And we're like, well, that's on the one side that we're not worrying about yet. Most of the damage is on the other side of the roof, so we're going to focus on that. So we never really bothered about that wasp nest for a while. It wasn't until we needed to focus on that side of the roof that we were like, okay, we probably should get rid of this wasp nest because we're going to have to go up and down the roof the whole time. We're going to be bothering them. They're going to sting us. So, they had made sure to buy some Raid cans, to spray them out on the day that we were going to do this. But we go up there and we look, and then we notice that, wait, this thing seems to be like going into the house a little bit, like the nest. So we kind of pry open the roof a little bit. I mean, we're going to have to replace it anyway. We started prying it open, and then we see that was just like the tip of the iceberg that was sticking out of the house. When we look inside, it was like a basketball-sized wasp nest. Ooh. And I think there was like crawling around it like 75 wasps all around here. Oh, no. And boy, when I got a chance to look at that and see just all those things moving around this little cocoon-like thing, I knew at that moment that I was like, I cannot do this. I have no idea what to do here. This makes no sense to me. I've never even seen this amount of wasp on any place. What's going to happen? I'm terrified. Lo and behold, I turn around, and at this point, I see Neil putting with his aviator shades on,
of course,
dual wielding Raid cans, as if there was like holsters that they came out of, flips them, and then I get down, and he just looks at me, takes off his glasses, says, "I'm going in."
Oh, that definitely sounds like a youth pastor.
And in typical youth pastor fashion, as he goes in and starts spraying the living heck out of it, he does get stung. I think it happened at least 3 times, and I think one of them was on his ear, too. Like, oh, it was not pretty. We had another guy volunteer. He was also there dual raiding raid cans, and boy, they were going to town on this sucker. And the carnage from that war was horrific for all to see. But man, Matt, I guess for me, the main takeaway I got from that was when I looked at that wasp nest while we were over there, I just had no idea what to do with that. I was, like I said, I was young. I had absolutely no mental capacity to know what 75 wasp looked like at the time, and let alone how to handle that and what to do with that. So I just had to step away and let somebody take care of that for me. Somebody who had to no, I know exactly what needs to be done here, and doing it in a fashion that I could never do again. But yeah, man, it's just sometimes there's things that come across in life where you look at it for the first time, and it's just too big to handle by yourself, and you definitely have no idea what to do, and oftentimes you're gonna need to call on bringing in some others to help out. Sometimes you're not always gonna have Neil with aviator shades dual wielding raid cans going up to it,
But hopefully you have someone like that in your life.
but you metaphorically you hopefully will have somebody coming to you with that. And if not, maybe another guy, or and multiple people, maybe a group of people to come by and help you out. Because, man, whenever you do get faced with that situation where you're looking at that, that's not okay, well, now I'm done. That's not well, I can't go any further. My game is done. No, at that point, it's, okay, now I need to hand this off to player two. I need to let somebody else start taking control of this. Because I just don't have the right abilities right now. But once that's done, I can learn, and then I can grow. I mean, right now, it's not the wasp nest. Like, I'm 24 now, and I can take care of a wasp nest on my own. If I saw that, I'd know what to do. But if I came across something bigger in life, like a friend of mine passing away, or somebody struggling with substance abuse or things like that, I may have something, but I'm going to look at it like a deer in the headlights and say, I'm not sure what to do. I need to ask somebody else to come along and help me out here. And most of all, I need to sit down with God and say, God, what should I be doing in this situation? How can I help? How can I be a mouthpiece for the people that you've put before me? Because I want to help, but I have no idea how to help right now. How can I do that? Yeah.
Man, that's really good. And man, there's a lot there that I want to talk about, but I know just for time's sake I won't. But it's so cool that you had someone in your life that really could step into the moment, like any good youth pastor. He was kind of a BA in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it wasn't 100% correct or accurate, which usually we kind of hope that we just get by and
good
and
97,
make it
95%.
Good 97. Man, that's great score.
Uh-huh.
But I think that what kind of stands out to me in your story was also just your willingness to let that happen. Because I know so many people in their life, they're just going to take it on, or they're going to try and do it. Mm-hmm. It's great that you allowed someone else to kind of step on in. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, so you mentioned this was some time ago. Have you, has that happened to you where you did get to be Neil, so to speak, and be able to step in for someone because for them it was a big situation and they didn't know what to do? But have you had that opportunity since this story to be able to step in and be able to, like, hey, I can be Neil, so to speak? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think I have, but I think I'm gonna kind of hold on to not because of I don't want to share that story, because I don't want to. It's more of I think that's just a really big, what I would talk about, that's a pretty big subject, and I just don't want us to go rambling on a little bit longer. But there have been those moments where they're just like, I really got no idea what to do here. Is there any way that you can help? And I'm not saying that I was going in saying I'm here to solve the problem. I was more, I'm going in and I'm here to listen to God, and then to verbally say what he's telling me. I'm here just to be the tool for God to be able to use right now. And if that's what you need, I will be there. And I've gotten to do that on multiple occasions. And it's only because I had the example to know what it looks like, and how to imitate that. So.
And that's awesome, because that's why God calls us to be in fellowship.
Yeah.
Because it takes the body, it takes us all to be able to do these things, to grow, to learn, to develop, to be able to see things slightly differently that help us be able to see a better picture in the end. And so it's awesome how, at one point you were the helpless person, and then you've been able to step in, and that's just who our God is. He's like, okay, I'm going to walk you through this, I'm going to take you through this, and then I'm going to use you through this too. That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing. And who knows, maybe in episode 3 we'll get to hear the other part of that story.
Maybe, yeah. Hopefully in episode 3. We'll see if we get a little bit on the darker side, I guess. Because there's always more. There's more than one side to youth ministry.
Oh, yes.
But let's go ahead and just move on. Let's just move it on. Okay, Matt. Well, you've made it this far, viewer and listener. Are you ready for Choose It or Lose It?
This is the part where we're going to bring up 3 different topics that we have not talked about. We have not shared this in at all, and we're going to be asked on the spot: would you choose this or would you lose this? And basically, just you'll get to hear us explain it just a little bit.
Yeah.
But
give it honor.
Usually, this is going to be fun. Sometimes a little deep. I know last week we talked a little bit about COVID, and that's not a light subject in any way. So I don't know. We'll see. And if whose turn is it to start? Is it my turn?
Matt, I know that you just prompted me by saying we're going to talk about some deep things. So I felt like I really needed to start off with this one.
Okay.
I want to kick it off. I want to make sure that we're starting off on the right foot.
Okay.
So, Matt, I need to know, are you going to choose it, as in you want to keep it, or lose it, as in you want to get rid of it? Cool Ranch Doritos.
Cool Ranch Doritos.
It's a very controversial topic. I know that a lot of people have their hot takes on yaw or nah, but man, Matt, I feel really deep down inside, I just want to know what you're thinking.
So, growing up, not the only, but I ate tons and tons of Doritos.
Okay. I
had a wide variety at that point in my childhood. That's when Doritos started to experiment with many different flavors. And it was almost associated with every meal I had. If I had spaghetti, there would be Doritos as a side. If I had hot wings, there was Doritos as a side. If I had fish, Doritos would be the side. With all that information, I most certainly would lose the Cool Ranch Doritos.
Oh, God. This is why I wanted to ask.
I am sorry.
Boy. Boy.
I have just never been a ranch guy. I don't like ranch. Yep.
I will admit. So he is the gentleman that goes to wing places and doesn't want ranch with a dipping for his wings.
No.
He just eats them raw. I mean, not raw. They're cooked. But he does not want a single dipping sauce except what's smothered on that chicken. And, man, I have to say, sometimes I question him, but other times I just get his extra ranch, so I'm really happy about it.
There you go.
But Matt, so you're losing it.
So I am going to lose it, and I now have to ask, choose it or lose it.
I am choosing that. I love Cool Ranch Doritos. If you were to give me regular name brand Doritos, nacho cheese, I would flick it. I don't like it. I don't care about nacho cheese. I think that's the most boringest Dorito chip there is out there. Cool Ranch, by far, I would choose that over nacho cheese any day. I would probably choose it over the extra spicy, like nacho cheese and stuff like that. I love me some Cool Ranch Doritos. It doesn't taste anything like ranch, but it just tastes good, and I like it.
Well, we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this one.
Yes, we will. So it's just more Cool Ranch chips for me.
There you go. But which is funny, because we haven't talked at all. But this is a perfect transition into one of my choose-its or lose-its.
Go for it.
I'll bring that up. So last night, I got to devour some hot wings. of varying heats and flavors, and I so enjoyed that.
Which, yeah.
So I'm going to ask Jordan, choose it or lose it with hot wings.
I'm choosing it for sure. I love me some hot wings. Now, I will admit, I'm eating a wing because it's hot. Like, I'm not a big, like, I don't always choose buffalo. I definitely don't usually choose some of the hottest ones. I just really like chicken, and I love it smothered in sauce. So anything to that, I will take it. But I very much like for Wingstop, the mango habanero. That's like one of the second hottest things they have. Yep. I will always get mango habanero. I love that stuff. But just getting like a straight super extreme hot or buffalo, I will lose that. But I love me some hot wings though. So there's some asterisks to that.
I understand.
But I'm choosing it. I'm choosing hot wings. So does that mean you're also choosing it?
I love hot wings. I mean, yes, I am one of those masochists that enjoy the heat. Like last night, I went to a place called Pluckers, and I got their fire wings, which is the hottest ones they have, as well as their buffalo spicy and gochujang.
I've never even heard of the latter.
I know I never pronounced it right, but it's basically it's a spicy Chinese flavor.
Interesting.
So it's sweet and spicy. So I like it. So I do like them spicy, but just hot wings in general, like you. I mean, I just love the wings.
I love wings. If there's anything somebody wants to know about me when it comes to my food taste, I like chicken a lot, and any form of chicken, grilled, cooked. Well, please be cooked. Fried, I'll eat it all. I love chicken. Chicken's domestic. I'd eat it 5 days a week. So hot wings, yes, I'd totally take that. Okay, Matt. Well, I know that this is something that a lot of students are actually struggling with right now, that they're not having this year. But I want to know,
I think I know where this is going.
Are you choosing it or losing it? Prom.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. That I was just off.
I'd love to know maybe after the show what you were thinking.
Choosing it or losing it. So, again, you're asking a homeschooler. There was a homeschool prom.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to know what the homeschool prom is like. I was a regular public school kid.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so with that, I just say that it is an option, and even with that option, I would lose it. I have never been a big fan of prom. I am not a prom guy. I'm one of those people that was very happy I've never attended a prom despite opportunities, and so I feel sorry for the students that aren't, because I know a lot of people do enjoy it. A lot of people do really get behind this, but for whatever reason in my whole life, I have just never been a fan of prom. So I would lose it.
Okay, Matt. Well,
hear it now for you. You know,
I'll do it this way. I'm gonna explain everything, but I'm not gonna say whether I'm choosing it or losing it just yet.
Okay.
And not till the very end. I did go to prom. Now, as everybody, or at least as the high schoolers said back then, I went stag. I'm assuming that's what people still say nowadays.
I know that reference.
Which basically means I went by myself. But I didn't mean to go by myself. For all of the proms that I was intending to go to, which I know you only really go whenever you're a senior, but I did try and go whenever I was a junior as well. Because at the time I wanted to go out with a senior.
Of course, that's usually one of the bylaws.
Both of the girls that I intended said no. Aww, sadly.
Ladies, just join me. Aww.
Well, the junior year one for sure said no. The hard thing about senior year is I was actively in a relationship with this girl around prom season, and the week that I was deciding I'm going to ask her to prom was also the same week that she and I had a conversation of, hey, I think we're going to be breaking up soon.
Oh!
And then she ended up, I don't think she still went to prom. I don't think she went with anybody. She went with a friend of mine, but I don't know if that was like, we're going because we're friends, or I'm going because I really like you. I have feelings towards both those individuals. But yeah, I'll tell you right now, when it comes to dating in high school, I tried my best, but I did not succeed at any point.
Which we're all happy for, because maybe we'll get to your girl eventually.
True. I have gotten very fortunate and very lucky with the one girl has seen my worth. But boy, so I guess at the end of the day, I'm gonna lose proms.
Wow, okay.
I mean, this is just because of the idea of prom and all of my experiences with prom. If I could do prom again, I would probably do it again because now I have an amazing girlfriend that I could go with. But if I didn't have anybody right now and I had to figure that all out, I'd probably say, lose it. I don't want to do that. Because, man, me going through 2 years of, I hope that this works out, I hope I can go, and then getting the big fat no, planning the big extravagant idea, and before I can even do it, I hear, that's not gonna fly. Like, no way. So it's like all that romantic feelings that I was trying to accomplish would just get teared down, and I wouldn't even have the chance to even let them blossom and grow. So prom, yeah, I've always had negative feelings towards prom. Now the after party with prom, that was pretty fun. I got to go with some friends. We were at a beach house for a while, but I could talk about that some more later.
Nice, okay.
But yeah,
sounds good.
What prom stood for, and when I went stag, man, it just wasn't really that interesting. I mean, I danced a little bit. I mean, I had the fruit punch. It's a high school prom. It was okay.
That might be my story time next time is of my almost time of going to the homeschool prom. But kind of getting us back on a serious note.
Okay.
Now this could very well determine for some youth whether or not they will ever listen to us again.
Oh gosh.
So, Mr. Jordan Bolt.
Oh no.
Harry Potter. Choose it or lose it.
Why you gotta make me alienate the audience, Matt? Because I'm gonna choose it.
Okay.
I grew up in a family where my parents were totally fine with me watching Harry Potter. My cousins, they were not fine with it.
Ironic, same thing. My family was fine with it. My cousins weren't allowed to watch.
My cousins were not allowed to watch. I think even to this day, they still haven't watched it, but it's mostly because they just didn't really care. Like it was when it was popular, they weren't gonna watch it. Why watch it now when it's not really popular? Nobody really cares about it. I actually grew up with my mom really loving Harry Potter. My mom was like, I want to go see all the movies. I want to read some of the books. Because she was like, I just really like the characters and who they are and like the character arcs. And it was from the Harry Potter stuff that I was like, well, yeah, I know that the witchcraft and wizardry, that's not true, that's not real, that's not what we're going for. Yes, there's instances of that happening and working in the Bible, but yes, that is not what we should be going for. But going to the movie to see a film and to be entertained for 2 hours and choosing Harry Potter as something that I want to go get entertained for 2 hours for, I'll choose Harry Potter. I liked it. I know that I've watched the series, all 8 movies, I think twice now at least. I know my mom's watched them probably 3. We were big. We were one of the people that went to the opening nights of watching the Harry Potter Part 7. The Harry Potter 7 Part 1 and 2. Like, we went to both of them. I have fun memories of Harry Potter. And it was at no intention at any point was I like, I can't wait to be a wizard and cast spells and things like that. It was just, man, I really like these characters. They seem really fun. I really like what they're doing. I just think it's really interesting, and I'm just very entertained when I'm watching it. Now, I never got around to reading the books. I was just a movie guy. But my mom and my sister had both read the books as well. So I am choosing it to the detriment of society, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Well, in whatever part you don't alienate, I will. So, because I would lose Harry Potter.
Okay.
Not for the magic's sake. I mean, for me, if you support Lord of the Rings, if you support Narnia, I mean, I think Harry Potter is going to be in that same magic realm, and so
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
my cousins. We talked about our cousins. I know Harry Potter was not something they could read or watch, but they could read and watch Narnia or Lord of the Rings. So, for me, it's not the magical component. I thought they did a great job. J.K. Rowling came up with a great world. I was very impressed with it. I was impressed with some of the storylines. I just could not stand the characters, and particularly Harry Potter drove me mad. When I was reading the books, he pretty much did everything the exact opposite way I would do it. And it would frustrate me because the consequences thereof would be what I figured would happen. It would be like, you could have avoided all this simply by just talking to an adult half the time. Just talk to the adult.
Well, Matt, you could diagnose that with any book, film, movie, show, whatever.
Yeah.
But there has to be plot
in
order for it to be interesting.
I know.
I know. And I feel that way about certain things too.
Yeah. But it just, I couldn't, I read the fourth one, I watched the fourth one, the Goblet of Fire. And then after that, I'm like, I just can't take this anymore. Now, my brother continued. He loved it. He enjoyed it. But I just could never. I loved the world. I loved a lot of the concepts in it. I enjoyed many of the characters. But I just couldn't deal with certain things, certain key aspects of it. And so I would lose Harry Potter.
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand. I don't think at any point I ever really put myself in the books or in the movies or anything like that. I just kind of watched it just to have some fun thing on the TV and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. So, okay, you're losing it. I'm choosing it.
Fair enough.
That's we'll see what the audience does with that information.
Right. It'll be interesting if we have an episode 3 with that one. But
I'm sure we will. We'll have fun. We'll see. Okay, next up. Choose to lose it. This actually happened on the day that we're recording this today, Tuesday, April 28th. There was a direct for this. This will probably go a little bit more in line with some of our more gaming-focused crew. Are you going to choose or lose it? Google Stadia.
Google Stadia.
Do you even know what Google Stadia is, Matt?
Man, you're kind of catching me because if I'm not, is that the new Google game system that'll be coming out with next gen?
It's basically Google's shot at making a gaming platform.
Okay.
Now it's already open and available now.
Oh, okay.
It's not till next year. So I'll tell you what it is.
Well, actually, no. So it's Google's version of the next gen gaming where PlayStation 5 is coming out, the next Xbox is coming out, Google's coming out with one, and then who's the other company? There's another newcomer to the battle.
Well, it's mostly Google Stadia, and then I guess most people on top of that are doing as well as cloud gaming things, but that's xCloud is also doing that. I think mostly Google Stadia is the only really actually potential newcomer to enter into this market.
Okay. So I just didn't remember if it was called Stadia or not. I know I looked into it probably when it was first announced, and I haven't done a whole lot since then because for me, I'm just going to plain lose it. For the same concept I do for anything with technology. When it's first generation, I almost always will skip it because whatever that first generation of technology is, it has lots of bugs, it has lots of issues, and then they work it out.
Yeah.
I currently am a PlayStation guy. I am very interested in seeing what Xbox and PlayStation do for their next gen. I haven't decided which one I will be doing. But I know I will side with them over it simply because they have been doing these things. They've been doing this for a little while.
Yeah.
I'm interested in Google Stadia. I hope that they make it and have a new platform that we could use. But just because it's first gen for no other reason, I would lose it.
Yeah. No, I get that. I definitely agree with you on the first gen aspect. But I'm not going to say whether I choose to lose it yet. Basically, when they first launched Google Stadia, it was horrible. It did not play well. It was super laggy because it's a cloud gaming. Like, you're able to take this game and play it wherever. I could play it on the MacBook that I have right in front of me, and it's not going off of the MacBook processing power and graphics card. It's going off of a computer that's in the sky and then getting beamed down into my Mac. So it lets me play games wherever I want on whatever I want. The only problem is, whenever it first came out, it had a whole bunch of old games that nobody ever really cares about, and they were all full price $60 games that everybody's like, I already have this game. Why on earth would I want to play it with Google Stadia? But the thing that came out today was another direct where they basically just said, hey, here's some more games that are coming. Here's our kind of future plans of what we're doing. And they added some things like the Jedi Fallen Order, that game that came out last December.
Yeah. Which I know you enjoyed.
I very much enjoyed that game. They also added this game called Octopath Traveler. It's if you know what tilt shift is, it's like a image where it's basically everything is super small, and it's 2D, but it has 3D kind of layering to it. It's really hard to just do a Google search on tilt shift or Octopath Traveler. It has a very interesting and unique art style, and it's a JRPG, a turn-based, and you can choose. The Octo comes from, there's 8 different characters that you choose at the beginning of the game, and each one has a different path, and then you can play the game 8 times or more to keep playing the game. I think I'm actually going to choose Google Stadia, not because I've actually played it myself, and I don't know if I ever really will, because that's not really the platform that I want to get my games on. But I think what they are doing is they're opening up games to people at a much lower cost. Google Stadia is saying is, for free, buy a game, and that's all you have to do, and now you can play it. You can play it on your computer. If you want to buy our controller, you can play it with a controller. You can actually just use like a regular Xbox or PS4 controller, but it may have just a little bit more lag because their proprietary controller connects to the server that you're playing it on, so it's supposed to be better, as opposed to your controller goes through your computer, then through that computer. So it's just an extra way to potentially have more gamers out there in the world. Because they don't need to buy a $400 Xbox or PlayStation. All they need to buy is a $60 game, and then they can play it. So, I don't know. I'm kind of choosing it, not because I like it. Okay. It's mostly because I think that what they're doing could make more competition, and there could be more people brought into the gaming world, which is super popular right now with COVID. Everybody is gaming. Everybody's streaming. Everybody's doing all this stuff. So I'm interested to see where it goes in the future. Who knows?
Okay.
So yeah, cool. I'm choosing it.
Fair enough. And then I'm bringing it home.
I guess you got our last one here. Yeah.
Yeah. So with this one, kind of like what you said, as a product of COVID, entertainment has taken some. Home entertainment has taken some necessary steps of what do you do being stuck and trapped. Different churches have had to adjust and modify. There's been a lot of different effects in life right now.
Yeah.
One big one is just media, or not media, but technology. And I know that you have been helping us a lot here with technology. I want to specifically ask about one in particular, and that's going to be Zoom. I know that Zoom is a go-to for many people on being able to do video conferencing and calling. And so, but I've also heard some controversial reports of people not liking Zoom for a variety of reasons of, odd times where Zoom seems to record without permission.
Yeah. People can get in.
People can. There's been some hacking issues, and so I'm just interested as a tech guy, as someone who's been having to do a lot of research and helping us in all that. Would you choose it or lose it with Zoom?
For the long run, I'll do it twofold. For the long run, I would lose it. I think that Zoom is a great platform for what it's trying to accomplish. And what it's trying to accomplish is to be a meeting place for people in businesses to have a professional talking time, to have a professional meeting, to come together with a face, with a chat, ways to interact with people. But as a social media outreach kind of tool for the short term, which I know is what a lot of churches and youth groups are looking into, I would probably lose it. Because I think some of the functionality with it, it's mostly geared towards businesses, geared towards I'm here to have a professional sense while we're trying to cut up, we're trying to have fun, play games, but doing it in the middle of a Zoom call, it's just there's nothing working for us there. And in the long run, there won't be any updates for that because they're going to continue pushing into we're a business professional platform. As opposed to something like Discord, I think it would be something that I would prefer to choose. I know that lately they've actually added more integrated video features and screen sharing and stuff like that. So that may be more of an easier, funner option because that is meant for people to have fun, to game, to share, to express, to have just enjoy. And there's no professionalism in any sense of it on Discord. So, and all the future updates coming towards that are going to help increase how can we help people connect and have fun more, as opposed to Zoom is how can we connect and have people be more professional more. So I think for myself, I would lose Zoom in the long run. I'm kind of hoping that we can wean off of it eventually. But in the meantime, it's the best platform for what it does right now, which is for us in our youth group, we're using Zoom to connect with students. But we also are doing other things to connect with them because there is a loss in quality time that we can have with them on that Zoom. That's why we're making even this in the first place.
Yeah.
So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And the way you break it up, I like that because I know for me, I would choose Zoom it's been very user friendly. Mm-hmm. It's been for a lot of people who have struggled with technology. I think it's been something that's been very good. It's filled in a gap that we've needed in this time, but in the long run, definitely not something I would plan on keeping around in my youth ministry for a long term.
Yeah.
Because it's always better face to face.
Of course.
And so, but for a temporary patch, I think Zoom has done a great job being able to step in and helping with that. Mm-hmm. I do know that there's some controversies. I do know that there's some issues, which is on for all sorts of technology. It's on every different type of program. That which is always the hard part. I mean, I know you and I looked into this for weeks to try and be able to provide a safe place for our youth, and we're just doing the best we can. And so we chose Zoom for those reasons we felt like currently right now it's one of the better ones we can use. It's one of the best ones out there. It's gonna fit the gap. It's going to be again user friendly because we've had several sixth graders join us, mm-hmm. and they've never done anything like this. They've never even gamed online, mm-hmm. and so this Zoom was a great tool in this time. So I would definitely choose Zoom as a product for what it does. Yeah. But like you said, in the long run, we will be losing it just again for the sake of we won't be needing that.
Yeah. So I would choose it in the short term, but long term I would lose it. Yeah. I want to kick that thing to the curb. I don't want to use it. And I know that the students, particularly some of our students, they are doing school in Zoom. Mm-hmm. So the more interactions that they have on Zoom, the more often they're going to think of it as it's just another class. It's just another school time. Matt is going to be our teacher. He's filling in that role, and Jordan is the TA. That's like what it's just going to feel more like so that's why I want to kick it out. I don't want it to be professional. I want us to have more fun. I want it to be more interactive. I want all these other things. So, but I also want to be able to meet in person. But I want people to be safe. There's so many caveats.
So many things,
But, man, well, that was 3. That was my 3.
Yep,
I think that wraps it up for our 3 segments. Yeah, we had a chance to talk about Question of the Week, which was just what has brought us into ministry. We got to talk about some stories from our lives. Yep. And then we got to wrap it up with some Choose It or Lose It. So
pretty good. I enjoyed that. I mean, it's always a little on edge, but it's been fun.
Yeah, because we never really know what we're bringing. So
no, and we sure like that build up too. I feel like it's like and then sometimes it's a heavy hit, and sometimes it's
And, yeah, sometimes it's like really Cool Ranch Doritos. That's what we're starting on. Well, yeah. So just don't forget. feel free to go down in the comments with any thoughts on this episode or last week's episode. We would love to read those. We'd love to get to know. If you didn't get a chance to vote for what the name of the show could look like, I won't put it in this one, but go back into episode 1, and in the description it'll have a link to a poll that you can go vote on there. Hopefully by the next episode we'll already have a name for this ready to go. And for sure, the biggest question this week on y'all's is, do y'all want this to be more of a podcast where, like it's been, where you guys don't see our faces and we put this on Spotify and Apple Podcast, or would you prefer to see our faces
and have more of a video where we can just do some different things? I know that we're just getting started off and we'd be able to build up into some stuff, but we're just wanting to hear from you guys. I mean, this is done for you guys so that we can have some more opportunity with you, something that we hope that you guys enjoy, maybe be able to laugh from, maybe get to learn some from. But again, this is for you guys. So whatever we can be doing to better modify this, to define this for y'all, please let us know. We want to see those comments. Even if you don't like stuff, you're not going to hurt our feelings. It's okay. We're two big adults, sometimes big boys. But we are willing to, we're just trying to figure out some way, somehow, how do we continue to do ministry in this weird time, and even after this weird time of COVID. Man, I think that there could be a future in this. And so love to hear from you guys, and man, let us know.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all, and we'll be signing off. See you next week.
Bye.